Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the JD Rucker Show. If you are watching the evening show, which starts at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, then awesome. If you're watching the daytime show, which starts at various times depending on what's happening in the news, then that's awesome as well. But either way, you should find me wherever you want to find me, whatever platforms you use, Rumble, X, YouTube, BitChute, all the various networks, all the various areas where the show's broadcast. You can find all those, plus my websites, plus my socials, and even my sponsors. You can go to jdrucker.com/find, jdrucker.com/find. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the JD Rucker Show, a daytime edition of it. Yes, we are trying again during the day. We've always done better numbers during the day. The whole reason that I moved it tonight was because of scheduling challenges. We are still going to be doing it every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So I guess that's the morning. But yeah, that's not changing. We're trying to add the daytime show. We're trying to split the show up. Instead of doing one long show, we're going to be doing two shorter shows. Hopefully, Lord willing, this will work out very nicely and we'll be able to expand our audience. To people like you, if you're watching now, and if this is the first time you're watching, welcome. We're here during the day. Not just having to wait until midnight. You can actually watch the JD Rucker Show during the day, and this is going to be a great time. Of course, as a result, both shows will be shortened. I would imagine they'll be close to an hour. Maybe some will be an hour, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Right now, I'm playing it by ear. We're seeing how the daytime show does as far as viewership. Of course, that's the most important aspect of it, but also how I can juggle the news, because obviously one of the huge advantages to doing a nighttime show is that the vast majority of the news is right there in front of me. I can accumulate it through the day, decide what I want to talk about, what I don't want to talk about, whereas doing this during the show during the day means more rapid. You know, we had Maureen Le Pen, the French nationalist politician who should have been running against Emmanuel Macron. Well, apparently she can't. A judge has sentenced her to not being able to run for 5 years based upon some trumped-up charge of embezzlement, which we've got some expert European information coming about that. Speaking of experts, we also have Victor Davis Hanson talking about California, and why California is just so bad. Of course, this weekend was the big Tesla takeover. And I'm not really going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about that more tonight because I have a theory, and it's a theory that's not mine. It's not new. I know a lot of people talked about how this is manufactured. You know, we're talking about paid protesters and all this other stuff, but it's actually worse than that. Yes, there are definitely paid protesters involved, but the insanity that we're seeing from what appears to be regular, average, insane leftists is insane. And I want to talk about that more in detail. So that part we're going to save. I might get to it today. We'll see. Game time decision. Decide whether or not I'm going to talk about that or not. Be sure that if you are watching for the first time or the 10th time or the 100th time that you subscribe. And if you're watching for the 100th time and you still haven't subscribed, then wow, that's pretty cool, actually. I don't know. But also be sure to give me a like. They help. Likes help. I didn't know this until recently. I used to never ask for likes, and now it's like, oh, please like my video, please. Thumbs up, likes, all that good stuff. Subscribe. Yeah, got that out of the way. All right. Well, that said, let's just get into the stories. Victor Davis Hanson reveals the fatal flaw when it comes to California's economic policy making. It's really simple. The people that are making the policies are all rich and insulated. Watch.
Nancy Pelosi, Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, Kamala Harris, Jerry Brown, Gavin Newsom. They're all from the same place. They're all from the same class. They're all very wealthy. They all have estates. Kevin's living in a $9 million home. Jerry's got a big Grass Valley estate. Feinstein had one of the most beautiful homes at Tahoe. Barbara Boxer's at Rancho Mirage. But their policies made sure that people where I live can't buy a house because of the regulations. It's so hard to do. Or they made sure that food is very expensive, or there's no natural gas. And because it doesn't affect them, because they have enough money, that they don't really care about the rates. They can either get their income and capital gains or get write-up, but they don't really worry about it. And then something like Los Angeles happens. And now that everybody's dumbfounded. Oh my God, I'm not insulated from this. No, you're not.
Now, I'm going to disagree with him a little bit there. He says, "Oh, they're realizing that they're not insulated. Why? Just because Malibu was on the list of places to get burned, Pacific Palisades, that's fine. They are insulated. They being the rich politicians in California. Why? Because none of them were actually affected. None of them. Yeah, even and if they were, let's say their Nancy Pelosi's house burned down. You really think that she's going to be like waiting for FEMA to come help her or anything like that? No, she'll be just fine. And I'm not against the rich. I'm just suggesting that if you're going to make policies that directly affect the middle class, that directly affect the poor, you should probably get the input from, I don't know, the middle class and the poor." Bill Maher and Maureen Dowd lament that the Democrat Party is still being controlled by the radical left, the progressive wokesters out there. They are correct, and on one hand, we can cheer that on as patriotic, freedom-loving Americans, but on the other hand, we have to be careful. Let's first start, though, with what they were saying.
They just stopped being any fun. I mean, they made everyone feel that everything they said and did and every word was wrong. And people don't want to live like that, feeling that everything they do is wrong.
No. You think we're over that era? Do you think that?
No, I think,
right.
I mean, I think Democrats are just in a coma. They haven't figured out.
Right. But no, the woke are not giving up on that. I mean, we saw the Seven Dwarves movie just came out.
Oh, right.
And
there are no dwarves, right?
They thought about the dwarves. It's so funny. This is, again, one of my big problems with progressives. They're so stupid so often about things that they find their way back to something that's very unprogressive. Like you think getting jobs for people, very progressive. Not if you're a dwarf, because like there are dwarves out there who wanted to play these parts who couldn't because it was somehow politically incorrect to portray dwarves as, I don't know, minors who know Snow White. It's a crazy character that somebody invented for children, and you're arguing about whether it's right if real dwarves play dwarves. There are dwarves in the world, and there are jobs for them that you lost on there. And then Snow White loves Palestine. Like, I wasn't going to see this movie anyway, but that. People who get their news from TikTok, just please shut the up.
It was, I think the Democrats just got to have a suffocating persona where you just couldn't do anything or say anything that wasn't to be criticized.
Somebody once wrote, "The politics of purity makes people stupid and mean."
Was that you?
It was you, fool.
Oh.
Very nice. But again, we can say, yeah, just let them keep making fools of themselves. But we have to be very careful. We still have to educate the people around us. We still have to make sure that if anybody starts saying, "Oh, wow, that sounds like it's a good idea," or "Wow, maybe we do need to be more diverse and equitable and inclusive," we need to just wake them up, okay? Don't let them because here's the thing. We might feel like, we're immune to it, but we're not. Well, maybe you are, and I am. But many of the people around us, maybe the people that are less aware of the woke mind virus, they can get sucked into it very easily. I've seen people who are otherwise lucid and even conservative, who sort of start to see a little bit of sense in it. It can happen. So let's not just say, oh, let them make fools of themselves. Yes, we should, but not without the caveat of making sure that the people that we can influence, the people around us, don't get sucked into it. New widely shared Harvard study promoting plant-based diets omits one extremely important detail. I've learned over the years, I'm sure many of you have as well, that a good chunk of these quote-unquote scientific studies are simply propaganda.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
They're commissioned by organizations. Those organizations have agendas. The agenda is inserted into the study. They release the study, and then it's used to validate the original agenda. Rinse and repeat. This is far more prevalent than I think most people realize. And that's why this particular study, when it came out, it's been picked up across the board. I mean, pretty much every health magazine, every aging and elderly living magazine, they're all just talking about this, especially the vegans and the vegetarian promoting ones, because it's like, oh my gosh, Harvard says eat plants. Except if you actually read the study, which I did, you'll realize that it's not exactly an accurate assessment. This comes to us from Eureka Alert, the scientific organization. This, again, is a Harvard study. It comes from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. It is allegedly peer-reviewed. It's got all the stamps of approval on it. Let me read for you just the first key point, and then we'll get into the omission. Maintaining a healthy diet rich in plant-based foods with low to moderate intake of healthy animal-based foods and lower intake of ultra-processed foods, which, by the way, I agree with that aspect. Forget about the ultra-processed foods. Stop eating them altogether. Was linked to a higher likelihood of healthy aging, defined as reaching age 70, free of major chronic diseases, with cognitive, physical, and mental health maintained, according to a 30-year study of food habits among more than 105,000 middle-aged adults. It's a massive study. They studied 8 dietary patterns, and these dietary patterns have names. And these names of these dietary patterns, some of them you'll recognize, others, it's like, wow, that's a dietary pattern. I had no idea. For example, they studied Alternative Health Eating Index, the Alternative Mediterranean Index, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. That's a name. And if you're wondering why would they name it something weird like dietary approaches to stop hypertension, that's because the acronym is DASH. Well, a lot of times the scientific community works just like our government, and they like to try to come up with nifty acronyms so that it's easier to promote their agenda. Mediterranean Dash Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay. Let's see, where's another good one? Empirical Data Index for Hyperinsulinemia, whatever that is. Okay, so great. So they've got these 8 studies, and according to their research, they've been able to determine which ones are better for which people. And they've determined definitively, beyond any doubt, that this plant-based diet and this plant-based diet and this plant-based diet are superior to the other diets. And that's the message. That's what's getting pushed out there by all these various health magazines and all this stuff. But the detail that was omitted is the fact that all 8 of the diets they studied are plant-based diets. In other words, there was a 0% chance, literally impossible, for a non-plant-based diet to have been declared the winner of this huge Harvard peer-reviewed study. The end goal of declaring that a plant-based diet was the healthiest was rigged. It was guaranteed. There was no chance. No matter who won, plant-based diets won. And that's the messaging that's being promoted out there. Don't eat meat. Don't eat meat. I mean, you can't make this up. Well, apparently you can. Somebody did. Somebody came up with a brilliant way to try to con people into thinking that if you don't eat meat, that somehow that's healthier. There's a rush, a gold rush, going on right now, not just by central banks, not just by entire countries, not just by those trying to refill Fort Knox before Elon Musk and and President Trump get there? No, there's a gold rush happening amongst individual Americans. It's a gold and silver rush, and it's specifically attracting people of retirement, of or near, I should say, retirement age. People are starting to realize that maybe they don't need their IRAs or 401ks or whatever stuck in the stock market. Maybe they should be looking at physical precious metals like gold and silver. Now, I am not a financial advisor, so I'm not going to give you advice. I'm just going to tell you who to talk to if you've already made up your mind and you think maybe I should consider it. Go to jdrgold.com, jdrgold.com, or call 800-200-4653. That's 800-200-GOLD. And check out what the folks over at Genesis Gold Group can do for you. They are a faith-driven precious metals company. They don't do the scams, the cheats, the tactics, such as, offering free or bonus silver. It's never free, and it's not really a bonus. You're paying for it. They just tack it onto the price and then say, "Oh, look, here's free, here's bonus." No. It's they probably have a good role to play in government, at least the old government. I would imagine that Doge and Elon Musk would sniff out their scams. But if you want to deal with a direct and honest company to do a tax-free rollover or transfer of your IRA, go to jdrgold.com, jdrgold.com. You'll receive a free definitive wealth protection kit, plus you will be contacted by my good friends at Genesis Gold Group. Is Signalgate already dead? Did it even live in the first place? I would argue no, it did not. Vast majority of Americans never really paid any attention. They saw it, maybe they gave it 30 seconds to a minute of morbid curiosity before realizing it was a nothing burger and moving on to something that was of actual importance to their lives. Dr. Drew and White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt tend to agree. Watch.
The Signal situation. And to me, it feels like we need to move on.
Yes.
That something happened. Yeah. Yes, something happened.
Right.
Got it. Did it cause any consequence? Are we able to move on to more substantial policy conversations? Are you having any traction moving them off of this? Or is it just, we got to get a hoax out there?
If it were up to the legacy media, they would want to stay stuck on it forever.
But why? I don't understand. As an American, I don't want that. I want the news.
It's sensationalism. Well, thank you. They are realizing that sensationalism no longer sells papers or gets you ratings.
Okay.
If you look at the ratings, we were just talking about this, you look at channel networks like CNN, which used to be the number one in cable news, their ratings are in the gutter.
Yeah.
And it's because they focus on the sensationalism. Every hour of every day they are bashing Donald Trump. That's not what America wants to hear. Look at the ratings. I always remind myself of this. CNN is like the bottom of the barrel. MSNBC has more ratings nowadays than CNN.
I
Fox
think
dominates
in this room, you get a bigger reach.
100%.
This is the new world. And the other thing I want to point out to everybody, this is all you need to run this kind of business.
Exactly.
As soon as you add that, you're adding expense you may not need.
Right.
You may not succeed.
Right.
This is the new world. That used to be in a television studio.
Yeah.
Now it's in my wife's hand.
Now it's in his wife's hands. Look, legacy media is still trying to push the narrative, whatever narrative they're being given. And that's why they're going to fail. They need to just get back to old school style. You know what? Play the video, play the report, speak the news, and then move on. Like this. A toddler was suspended by a nursery for being transphobic, proving the woke mind virus is alive and well in Great Britain. And here's the thing, it's not just Great Britain. Please don't think that just because we elected President Donald Trump that we're safe. Nothing like this could ever happen in the United States of America. Watch this and pay close attention.
A toddler was suspended from a nursery after they were accused of being transphobic or homophobic. I just cannot believe this. The Department of Education data revealed the child is either 3 or 4 years old. A DOE, a Department of Education spokesman, said all pupils and staff should feel safe. I can't believe I'm reading this. Should feel safe and protected at school and should never face violence or abuse. The Education Secretary has been clear that she expects school leaders to enforce good behaviour, and we are committed to a comprehensive programme of behaviour to support all schools. I
don't know. I do know, actually. Look, I think, and I've seen this more and more lately, we have to appreciate and understand the reality that despite election victories, despite political wins and executive orders and whatever, that we are not safe. The work is not done. Your children are not safe. Just because some of the wokeness has gone underground, a lot more of it has emerged as a result of the 2024 election. We're seeing this, of course, with the absolutely insane Tesla protests, and not just protests. We're seeing people doing crazy, crazy things. This is going to spread. This is spreading here in the United States of America. And I fear that far too many Americans have grown complacent and just, hey, you know what? I got my MAGA hat and we're good to go. Let's make America great again. We can, and I do believe we will. But it's not going to come as a result of politics. It's going to come in the trenches with you and me fighting against this rising woke mind virus. Dr. Peter Navarro says Mexico looks like the United States did during World War II, and he's absolutely right. But I would also argue that his path forward, the way that he sees the future, is going back towards more of a manufacturing and industrial nation. He is correct, but I think it's actually bigger and better than what he envisions. Let's start with his words.
Trusted Trump, we have the example from the first term. We know that we imposed historically high tariffs on China. We imposed aluminum and steel tariffs. We imposed on washing machines, on solar. And all we got out of that, Shannon, all we got out of that was prosperity and price stability. And the reason why we're not going to see inflation is because the foreigners are going to eat most of it. They have to. We're the biggest market in the world, Shannon. And they have to be here. They have to be here. And so they're going to cut their prices to absorb that. But the bigger picture here is restoring the American manufacturing base. We don't have that. We're an assembly thing. You remember, look, something called the arsenal democracy back in World War II. That was how we beat the Japanese and the Germans with our military might. When Patton went to Berlin, it was with trucks, jeeps, and tanks that were made in the auto plants of the Midwest. And right now, the only thing that looks like the Midwest back then is Mexico. You go across the diaspora of cities in Mexico, there's 50 football field size assembly plants that are down there making the engines for here. We can't do that. The Germans and the Japanese, the South Koreans, and the Mexicans have taken our manufacturing capability. So we've got to get that back. And we're going to do it in a way which is going to protect American consumers and create jobs for American workers. There's going to be over 1 million new jobs created in the greater auto industry.
He's correct, but I would say that if anything, he's shooting a little bit too low. He needs to be thinking bigger. We actually have a very different opportunity than anything we've had in our past based upon the advancements in technology. Yes, we can bring manufacturing back to the United States, but it's not going to be like it was during World War II or any time in our history. We have the ability right now to truly reimagine what manufacturing looks like here in the United States of America. That means taking advantage of not only advanced technologies in the manufacturing itself, as well as, of course, the distribution, but also in what we're manufacturing. We can manufacture some amazing things, far greater than what we can get from China or Taiwan or South Korea or Mexico or anywhere else. We can build right now, today, in ways where other nations that have been industrial for so long, they're kind of stuck. They have to sort of make advancements, incrementally, upgrade this, improve that, train more workers to do the new stuff. We can just start from the very top level. Okay, we can start manufacturing, training workers, and manufacturing new products, better products, with better systems, better distribution capabilities, in a way that would make us the place where you would want to import from. Instead of everybody wanting to export their goods to us, be like, wow, those American manufacturers, their quality is so much better than anything that we can produce here. We need to get their stuff. We need to import from them. And it's not a pipe dream. Okay, this is reality. If we're building today with the idea that we're taking advantage of modern technology and modern processes, we're not hampered by what other nations would have to do in order to get to the same place. That's not even taking into account our advanced technology just inherently being the United States of America. So I would say, yes, Peter Navarro is correct. We need to get back but we can also take it much higher. A massive percentage of Japanese corporations are expanding operations into the United States. This is, of course, due to President Trump's tariffs. But it's more than that. Let's be clear. I mean, the opportunity is abundant here in the United States of America. These Japanese corporations, they've crunched the numbers. They've done the calculus. They realize that based upon President Trump's tariffs, as well as the opportunity of an expanding American economy, it just makes sense to, at the very least, look into it. Now, it's not logistically possible for every Japanese corporation to do so, but it is a massive amount. So what are we talking about massive? Is it 5 or 10%? That'd be pretty huge. Are we looking at 15? Gosh, maybe even 20%? No.
Based on your research, it sounds like President Trump's tariffs are one of the factors here.
Yeah, Dee Dee, they definitely play a part. A new survey from a Japan-based news agency polled executives at 144 major Japanese corporations, and around 30% said they were expanding their operations in the U.S., and another 20% said they were exploring options for expansion.
So President Trump's 25% tariffs on imported cars and car parts, that is expected to start next week. So tell us about the changes that we're actually already seeing with regards to foreign automakers making ahead of this.
Yeah, so according to a list released by the White House, which they got from reporting by Reuters, Honda will be producing its new Civic Hybrid in Indiana instead of Mexico. Also, Hyundai Motor and Stellantis have announced their plans to set up shop here too.
Just incredible. Look, if you had told me yesterday that 20%, just 20% of Japanese companies were either already moving or considering moving, the combined number, I would have been just ecstatic. For it to be 50%, 30% already moving, another 20% considering moving, that's mind-blowing. Okay, that's tremendous. And it's not like we're talking about Chinese jobs or Venezuelan jobs. These are Japanese jobs, which means there are going to be a whole bunch of high-end blue-collar jobs as well as a bunch of white-collar jobs that are coming over here, hiring Americans to do this work. This is a tremendous news. And so if you have any friends or relatives that are like, oh, tariffs are going to kill the job market, just tell them these stats that you've heard today and tell them, just wait. Lawfare against conservatives in Europe may be getting as bad as it is here in the United States. As a matter of fact, as of today, it seems like it might be even worse. French nationalist politician and conservative Marine Le Pen was barred from being able to run for political office for the next 5 years and may have to spend 2 years in jail. I turn to Eva Vlaardingerbroek for the update.
Okay, so the lawfare being used against right-wing politicians in Europe is being taken to a whole new level. Marine Le Pen, the leader of Rassemblement National, the populist right-wing party in France, has just been sentenced to 4 years in jail, of which 2 suspended, and has been barred from partaking in French politics for the next 5 years. That means that she's been barred from running against Macron for the position of the president of France. She's been convicted for allegedly embezzling European funds, misusing European funds for her national fraction of the party instead of the European fraction of the party, which I dare to bet money on the fact that if any judicial system in any European country would launch an investigation into left-wing parties to see if they were doing that let's say 80% of them would be found guilty of the same thing, because I used to work in the European Parliament, and trust me, this is something that I think happens a lot more than they want you to believe. And of course, we will never know that because they don't launch investigations into left-wing parties, because the whole aim of this is to crush the right wing in Europe, because we're growing too fast. And so the system, the cabal, needs to come down on us through another way. And what do? Lawfare. They're banning us. They're banning our parties. They're banning politicians from running. They're convicting us of hate speech and hate crimes. That's how they do it. That's the new strategy. And, think about it for a second. Embezzlement of European funds. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, is under investigation for corruption because she closed a 35 billion euro deal with the CEO of Pfizer via text message. And we still don't have those text messages, but she is the president of the European Commission, and Marine Le Pen is not allowed to run as the president of France. If that is not two-tier politics, I don't know what is.
We know we've got it pretty bad here in the United States when it comes to lawfare against conservatives. President Trump suffered through so much of it during the campaign, and now that he's in office, he's seeing a whole bunch of it used against his administration. It seems like every single executive order, every action, major action taken by departments or agencies is getting challenged through the legal system. But we can at least fight back. In Europe, they're having major challenges being able to fight back. It's as if they're already taken over. It's too late. You know, I know that many of my European friends, they'll come back and say, oh, well, I'd still rather be in Europe than in the United States. You guys are all have guns, and that's bad, and guns are bad, or whatever. I'll take my guns over your lawfare on steroids that's apparently plaguing the European Union. If there's one thing that people who are brand new to prepping often forget, it's the long-term storage meds. I think a lot of times people either forget them or they don't realize that they can acquire medications that can be held for an extended period of time. My good friends over at Jace Medical, well, they've got you covered, whether it's for chronic meds for illnesses that you or your family members have, whether it's antibiotics, just being ready for whatever is going to happen in the world. These are things that you should have available to you if you're going to be preparing for self-reliance in the long haul. Go to jdrucker.com/meds, jdrucker.com/meds. Use promo code RUCKER10, the number 10, RUCKER10 at checkout, and you get a nice discount on top of that. jdrucker.com/meds. One of the best ways to stay ahead of the deep state and to understand the machinations of the globalist elite cabal is to get information from people in the know, such as former CIA analyst Jim Rickards. Go to jdrucker.com/crisis, jdrucker.com/crisis, and see what information they have for you today. Was Signalgate a deep state op? Yes, it was. I'm about 95% sure on that one. With the other 5%, we'll leave a 0.1% chance. It's a little sliver of a chance that it was an accident because, again, I can't be 100% sure without evidence. But everything that we're seeing points to 95% chance that it was a deep state op, with about a 4.9% chance that it was separate from the deep state, a global elite cabal, or maybe some rogue operative within Mike Waltz's team, maybe even Mike Waltz himself. Who knows? But we do know that this wasn't some accident, that one of the most egregiously anti-Trump journalists in America happened to be the recipient of this lucky accident, this mistake that somebody portrayed. If you do believe that this truly was just a mistake, that nobody did anything nefarious, you probably also believed that bat soup was the root cause of COVID-19. Jason Buttrill over at The Blaze, he went on with Sarah Gonzalez and gave what I consider to be an excellent argument that it was the deep state that initiated Signalgate.
No, this is total bullcrap. Absolute bullcrap. Waltz went on, I think it was NBC also, because speculation was running wild. And conservatives were trying to rationalize this themselves, saying, oh yeah, this is bad, but maybe he clicked on the wrong name. Maybe he accidentally, it was just an accident, whatever. But he went on, I think it was NBC a couple days ago or yesterday, and said, look, this was a different number associated with a different contact. Then he said, we're looking into whether it was done deliberately or some other, quote, technical mean. What the hell does that mean? Yeah. That's like if I want to text you something and somehow it got changed in my phone to the plumber. And the plumber's like, why are you telling me you're going to be on my show on Wednesday? Right. Who are you talking about? That somebody would have had to have done that. Yeah. Now I look at it and say, okay, well, who? Because Signal has an interesting history, funding history. Now, their funding goes back to, I think they were called the Open Whisper something, but they got millions of dollars from a government organization. That government organization has ties, or it's underneath Radio Free Asia. Radio Free Asia, Radio Free Europe, those are CIA Cold War weapons from the Cold War. Direct ties and manipulation with the CIA. Now, if you ask them, they're like, "Oh, we stopped that crap. We don't mess with USAID either. Like they're on their own. We don't do anything with that."
They're like, we investigated ourselves and we found that we don't do that anymore.
Right, exactly. It's like the big food and pharma thing all over again.
Yeah.
I am not buying that whatsoever. WikiLeaks came out years ago and said that their Vault 7 release said that the NSA and the intelligence community, or no, it was the CIA, had direct access into both Signal and WhatsApp. They could penetrate it. Tucker Carlson says just a year or so ago that the NSA went into his Signal and pulled out the messages and then contacted him. So we know you're going to have this interview with Putin. He's like, I didn't tell anybody. It was just in Signal. Come on. Look at what CIA Director Ratcliffe said. He said the day he was sworn in, the very first thing that happened was that CIA technicians came in and loaded up Signal in every single one of his apps. Tulsi Gabbard, today in front of the House, said that that's just what happens. That I think going back from what you said, CISA under the Biden administration, they recommended personally using Signal, so now they're uploaded on every. Why would the government, whose sole intention, they love snooping on all of our communications? If you believe any of the Snowden stuff, looking into tapping into internet LAN communications, all that stuff to read all of our mail. Why would they be like, yep, that's approved, it's all good? Unless they already have a backdoor into this app or some way to penetrate it or something. That's why they mandate it. That's why it's on every single app. And now the luckiest strike in the history of luck strikes happens to one of the biggest opposition journalists, where he's like, oh, I just got added in. I have no idea. The contact was changed. I don't know. It's just, wow, it's a big mistake by the Trump administration. Bullcrap. Don't admit that. This is not a mistake. This is the deep state at work.
95% chance that it was deep state. I think that Jason Buttrell's argument was spot on, 100% there, and ever so slight chance that it might have been somebody outside of the deep state. But everything we know about the CIA, how they operate, everything that we know about this particular chat group, the people that were in it, everything we know about how all this went down just cannot be so many coincidences. And as my viewers know, I don't believe in coincidences. Yes, it was a very short show today, my first daytime show. Hey, we're gonna get more. There's plenty of news to talk about, but again, I have to have at least something to talk about tonight for tonight's show. And I'm saying all that in jest, because in reality, I can do this all day. I could literally just give me a computer and the libertydaily.com and americafirstreport.com and discernreport.com and all of our 250 to 300, depending upon the day, sources that we pull our stories from. I'll just look through those and I could talk nonstop. I mean, if it wasn't for sleep and eating and other bodily activities, I could and would do this the entire day and night. I love doing this. Please, as a result, show me some love and subscribe, like the video, all of that good stuff. We will be back tonight, Lord willing, at 9 p.m. Pacific, at midnight Eastern. That is the intention, to do this every day, at least Monday through Friday. But possibly we're looking at expanding to the weekends as well. There has been an appetite for weekend content, so we will see. Speaking of content, I did try something over the weekend, and I'm not going to play it for you all, but I did try what do we call it? The Discern Report, because that's one of my websites. Thought, it's about discernment. These were a bunch of stories. I think we squeezed in like 8 stories in like 4 minutes or something like that. A bunch of stories that are important enough to talk about, but not important enough for commentary. Basically, I was just reading the news, and we gave it a shot. I worked really hard. I really did. I mean, I was pre-recording it and then editing it properly and getting all the cuts in there and all this other stuff. It took me quite a while. And then we put it out there on YouTube and Rumble and various places, and it just didn't do very well. I can always tell if a particular segment does well based upon how long people watch it, right? I get to see the statistics about how, if it's a 6-minute video, are they watching 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes? Well, this particular one, giving it a shot, I guess my audience doesn't have an appetite for that, because on a 4-minute video, it barely broke like a minute of watch time average. So it's like, let's not do that again. I guess I'm not a good news reader. I'm more of a commentator, an analyst, a talking head, an op-ed guy. I got opinions. I got thoughts, and I need to share those thoughts versus just today in the news. It would be fun. And to be clear, I'm a big fan of news. I really am. I would prefer if I had control over the universe. I would make it to where all the news was just the news, literally, like no bias whatsoever. And then if there's commentary is clearly delineated as, hey, now we're going to express the opinion. And this is the opinion of me and my sponsors and my producers and the globalist elite cabal, full transparency on whoever is promoting these people's commentary, their opinions. Otherwise, I would much rather just be news. And I gave it a shot. I might try it again someday because it really was fun, to be clear. But the results were lackluster. So we will see. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.